My friends, a lot of people are resting assured, smug and assured that if we have a war, that certain powers, no other body would attack us simply because we will retaliate with our nuclear submarine fleet or this or that or the other, that no one would dare attack us because of these concerns. What if I told you that there are some other ways that, other than what I've told you in the past, that they've got us hacked, that they've got us prepared, or they're prepared to take down our comms to command our nuclear submarines, and furthermore, that they may even be able to prevent a lot of our retaliation. How about this? What if I told you that the Chinese have just bought land next to our B-2 bomber base within a mile? I mean, just bought it. You know, we thought we had all these precautions to prevent this stuff. What if I told you that Huawei has transmitters still in operation right here in the United States that could thwart nuclear commands straight out of Washington, D.C., and at the various command centers that would be receiving the commands? They've been strategically locating these around the United States for some strange and oddball reason. Not to mention, we've already covered that they have these SIM farms that can tie up the cell networks and the internet, and that they have massively hacked our internet, that they've massively hacked everything, our power grid, that they have perhaps 100,000 sleeper cell agents right here in the United States. Um, so, you know, these are things that you're not hearing. Also, General Flynn, I'm not going to show this article, not because it's on Rumble, but General Flynn has come out claiming that sleeper cells are expected to attack 10 to 15 cities in the United States within the next 90 days. So, my friends, things could be getting really real fast. We're on the verge of doing something in Venezuela, which I will submit has more to do with other foreign powers having influence in the Western Hemisphere than it does drugs. And I've said this from the get-go, and it's looking more and more like that's the case. And this whole situation in Europe is still festering. China is now threatening Japan over Japan, having finally realized that if Taiwan falls, they're going to fall. That they are totally vulnerable. They won't be able to get trade. Japan survives on trade. They have a lot of manufacturing, but they have to import and export to survive, including fuel. And the pathways for that will be totally under control by guess who? China. And China is not too friendly to who? Japan. Japan is now seeing Taiwan, the very existence of Taiwan's independence, as an existential requirement for them to maintain their survival. So they are suddenly getting frantic about it there, and China is snapping at them over it. So, guys, things are getting interesting. They're getting very interesting very fast. We don't know where this can go. Let's hope and pray that we manage to move the chess pieces in such a way to avert a major World War III, but it could happen. It very much could happen, and they have been preparing to basically hit us. And perhaps, you know, the late great Dr. Peter Vincent Pry, who I've interviewed on his channel many times, who Kurt Weldon himself, who used to be the head of the Homeland Security Committee in the House, he himself said that Dr. Peter Vincent Pry was the foremost expert on Soviet weapon systems, and also to a large degree on Chinese weapon systems. That he was the foremost expert. And what Peter Pry warned us was that we are running the risk of having a first strike against us, one that we could not retaliate against. He warned us against that on videos on this channel years ago when he was still alive. And now we're beginning to see the fingerprints everywhere that it's really, really looking like that may be the case. And also bear in mind that you know, Russia is pledging at least material support to the hilt to Venezuela, whatever that means. So I'm going to share some articles on these things just to reinforce what I've been saying here. This is things that I've been trying to warn you guys against for a long time. And well, the roosters, chickens may be coming home to roost. Uh, who knows? But you know, if we allow things to keep going the way we're going, we're toast. We've got to somehow stop the hemorrhaging. And that may be a lot of what's going on with Trump's moves in South America. He's trying to cut the foreign influences in our own hemisphere so we can at least protect ourselves at our own back door. And there's a lot of data out there saying that we really can't sustain a war against China, at least not right now. We're not up for it. 8 out of 13 critical industries that we need to be able to prosecute that war are short on supplies, short on spares, whereas China is stocked up to the hilt. So, and not to mention what I've been talking about for some time, us being short on munitions while we continue to play whack-a-mole with other countries around the world with these critical assets. So we're not in a good spot. So we've got to be very, very smart how we navigate the waters ahead of us. It's going to be a challenging time. It's a perilous time because we've not minded the store. We fell asleep at the switch, and we've allowed unfriendlies to crawl into our own territory, into our own backyards, into our own houses, into our own communications networks, and everywhere you can name. I've been warning about this for a long time, but now it's really coming home to roost that we're seeing this. We're seeing it more and more. The fingerprints are everywhere, and it's more extensive and pervasive than even I thought a year ago. The amount that we're seeing this is rather shocking. It is just absolutely shocking to know what we are facing today. And this is why, my friends, the United States needs to be very careful right now. Very careful. Plus, we got a lot of people at home. They just aren't friendly to us anymore. We've got a lot of Americans that don't like America because they've been told that we're the worst country that ever existed, which is a bunch of hooey. But, you know, that's a sad state. But we need to work on that and turn that around. But we've also got, we got threats, foreign and domestic, up one side and down the other. You got to get yourself prepared because there may not be if everything goes to heck in the handbasket, nobody's coming to save you. You got to take care of yourself. And this is something I've been trying to tell you guys for a long time. So, pardon me, I'm still getting over being sick. I wanted to go last night. I want to go live last night, and I was a zombie. I couldn't do it. I was fading in and out. I couldn't stay awake. I'm still fighting the bug, guys. So let's do a share. I don't know if y'all saw my last video on Galactic Greg's. I was coughing a fair bit in that video. All right, so let's go and have a look at some of these things. And here we go. How did we let China buy a trailer park in this spot? We're talking about a mile from our B-2 bomber base in Missouri, the Whiteman Air Force Base. And we do have right now just a tiny fleet of B-2 bombers, excuse me. And these are supposed to be our cutting edge bombers for prosecuting actions of retaliation. And this RV park just a mile away was bought out by a CCP intelligence affiliate known as Miles Guo. I guess that's how you pronounce his name. And he's connected to a bunch of other, inside the CCP outfits. But not only is the B-2 still the world's only nuclear capable stealth bomber after more than 30 years, it's the most capable conventional bombers ever flown. And so and we've only got 21 of them. Excuse me, we've only built 21 of them. And we know the Spirit of Kansas crashed in 2008. We had other crashes that have taken place. So we got a little bit of attrition in our fleet. But it turns out that they're buying other properties in this area. This isn't the only one. That there are CCP connected shell corporations buying property all around this base and others still as we speak. And guys, all they got to have is an ISO shipping container that could have missiles in it, could have drones in it. These things could intercept aircraft coming off the tarmac. they could go spray fentanyl or something else over the planes before the crews get in them. And the same thing could happen with our uh, doomsday planes, which are another way we have of commanding our nuclear forces. But that's not all they got. That's nowhere near all they got. The FBI has recently determined that Huawei equipment installed top cell towers, in one instance, a third of a mile from the intercontinental ballistic missile silos in Montana, is capable of capturing and disrupting highly restricted Defense Department communications, including those used by the U.S. Strategic Command, which oversees the country's nuclear weapons. And that's not all. They got them in D.C. also. These towers also are in D.C. They're near the Pentagon, the White House. Huawei's got this stuff strategically placed throughout the United States. Yearly, the gear clustered near sensitive military assets, including Offutt Air Force Base, I don't know if I pronounced that right, and nuclear missile silos, and they just go on and on and on and on and on. And there's a bunch of reports on this, guys. So I'm kidding you not. This is something that we need to be concerned with that has not been getting a lot of attention. Cybersecurity vulnerabilities and espionage risk in U.S. networks, allowing Chinese-designed telecom networks and hardware into U.S. infrastructure, creates serious cybersecurity vulnerabilities. The most immediate fear is espionage. The routers, the switches, the cell towers from Huawei, ZTE could surreptitiously siphon off sensitive data and send it to China. Not to mention what they're not saying, they could also interfere with our command chain. And that's not the only way they could physically do it, because we know that we've got basically three of these very low frequency transmitters we use to transmit to our submarines. Everybody knows where they're at, including them. They could send in sleeper cells to attack these towers directly. And we got one up in this is the Jim Creek one up in near Osso, Washington. There's one up in Maine and one in Hawaii that we know about. So these are antennas and sites that could be directly attacked, and maybe that's what all these sleeper cells are really here for, is should they have the opportunity to go after these. So this is, here's one in Japan. That's not going to be our first and foremost one to communicate from. The commands are going to have to come from the president. And something else to note is that, let me stop the share for a second, then we'll come back to this. We'll go to another article here and we'll switch to it and come back to that. Okay, the stop share button don't want to work. So if they park a submarine with a hypersonic missile off the East Coast, it could be hitting the White House and the Pentagon in like 5 minutes. And they would probably do it when the president's asleep. And right now, the United States president's the only one that has the authority to launch a nuclear strike. He's the only one that has authority to respond to an attack. And, if suddenly he's having to put on his underwear and being evacuated and he's got to man the football at the same time, how is all that to be handled? Well, there's not been drills for this. He's been given a football and told what it is, but there really hasn't been drills for how you handle this. What happens if something happens to the president? Well, then, vice president's in charge, then Speaker of the House. There is a echelon of who gets in charge, but how do you get the football from one to the other? They got to get that instrument into the hands of the other individual, and everybody's running for their lives. You see what I'm saying? This whole notion that we're so prepared to deal with the first strike on America is a bit of a stretch, to put it mildly. And you think they don't know that? You think maybe that's got a lot to do with the drone activity we've been sending all over the United States for some time? especially near a sensitive military bases. You think this has got something to do with them buying land near a sensitive military bases? You think maybe this has got something to do with why the spy balloon from China flew directly over our nuclear ICBM sites in Montana and North Dakota and hovered and loitered and was allowed to do that when it could have been taken down over the mountainous forest up in the north? Yet it was allowed to cross the entirety of the United States before it's taken out off the seaboard off South Carolina. Guys, this is unconscionable. It's just unconscionable what's been allowed to happen, what's been allowed to metastasize in our nation here in terms of foreign influences and, and that things that could disrupt our very command and control. You got to bear in mind, too, I keep reminding you guys that our military's electrical power mostly comes from civilian sources. Civilian sources that can be taken down by direct kinetic attacks on just certain few number of key substations that can be taken out by EMP attacks, localized or national from an EMP, high altitude uh, nuclear device that set off 200 miles over Nebraska or Kansas, or from missiles shot up from Venezuela, as Stacy Savicki saw in a vision back a few years ago. And we know that things are being sent to Venezuela, don't we? So we don't know what all is going there, my friends. And we don't know if suddenly, Russia just got tired of us, China just got tired of us, and somebody said, well, it's time for an EMP attack. And if we do it off the coast of Venezuela, they won't know who did it. That was the whole crux of something I was really worried about. And suddenly this lady who milks cows had this vision come to me and ask me about it. I said, oh my gosh, how did you know this? She had a vision. And that was really the technical veracity of it really frightened me. This, like, how in the world did she see this? It was given to her. She was not the kind of person who would ordinarily, she wasn't a member of the power grid defense community. She wasn't a member of the military, didn't know anything about uh, EMPs and nuclear weapons and where our soft underbelly is. And yet that's what she saw. So these are reasons to be concerned. These are reasons to pay attention to what's going on right now. I'm not saying that this is going to happen. Don't say Greg Allison said blah, blah, blah. What I'm saying is these are things that can happen. These are things that you need to be aware of. These are things you need to prepare for. But I always say prep and pray and hope for a better day. Prep for the worst, pray for the best, or vice versa. I kid you not. Who else tells you this stuff to this level? Who else? I'm the one that sat here and come up with a white paper that explained how they could use those balloons to EMP this country. And it did go to the Homeland Security committees in both the House and the Senate. So uh, that happened. So I'm trying to get word out into the right venues. But you need to be aware from your standpoint because, like I said, nobody's coming to save you. If we have a major nationwide grid down, FEMA and all these things, they're only set up to do with localized disasters, not nationwide disasters. This it's just not in the cards. So this is why you need to take your prep and seriously. This is why you need to get ready. These threats exist. I hope and pray that saner heads prevail and these things don't come to pass. But we're seeing a lot of saber rattling right now, and we're seeing some shots fired. We're seeing the whole world is unstable right now. We got India and Pakistan and Afghanistan may go at it, and India and Pakistan are nuclear powers. They got a little peace treaty negotiated between them last time. I mean, this time it may not work so well. Pakistan is destined to tangle up with India just because India is controlling the waters and the headwaters to the Indus River. And Pakistan faces potential starvation due to that. So it may be existential to their survival that they take some kind of action. So the tensions are at the boiling point all over the world right now. And it's, it shouldn't be like this. Frankly, it shouldn't be like this, but it is. We're in a time where, all we're doing is all around the world is we're fanning hatreds. And We can't survive if this continues. Something's got to be done. But anyway, let me just, for the sake of, I'm not advocating more. I'm just telling you where we're at. So let me come in here and show you some more of this stuff. So I just want to take a break a minute to further explain what I just showed you. So who else brings this to you in this way, huh? There's a lot of other prepper channels out there, but how many of them are involved directly in power grid defense? How many of them are in actual rocket scientists that understands rockets, space? So anyway, as we know, Hexas has now announced this Operation Southern Spear to quash narco terrorists. Now, you think we need to send the Ford aircraft carrier group to the Caribbean just to smash narco terrorists? I think there's more to it than that. We've got that down there. We've got our amphibious aircraft down, our ships down there, amphibious landing ships. We've got quite a fleet arrayed in that area. But so he's talking about, well, they just done 20 lethal strikes on narco boats. Now, you know what? I have no, you know, boats that are bringing drugs to America. I have no, I'm having a hard time having sympathy for those. So yeah, they claim that they know exactly who's on these boats. I hope they do. That's all I can say on that. Anyway, and Trump's been briefed on options for what to do with Venezuela. And these options include probably striking at narco terrorist sites in Venezuela. But, you know, I kind of bet that they also include strikes on ports, facilities of Venezuela itself, military of Venezuela, and probably even Maduro. Now, how far is this going to go? How fast is it going to go? I don't know. But why do we send all this stuff down there? Well, as I've mentioned before, and many times, Venezuela has been a hot spot for Iran sending stuff into, and I was talking about this back in Trump's first term, missiles and things, and members of Hezbollah into South America, and they've come up through Central America into this country from there. We now have Trinity de Agua, who were in the prisons of Venezuela, who the doors were thrown open, and Maduro said, go north, and they're here. And yet certain people want to protect them and keep them here for some strange, unbeknownst reason. Who's defending the gangs? Who's defending these human trafficking, which is slavery, and drug peddling gangs? Well, you see that happen, right? Anyway, so Russia's offered to arm Venezuela following Trump attacks. And even Lavrov is talking about it over there. So it's not just, anybody in Russia. So there's a treaty that hasn't actually been ratified yet by Russia, but Lavrov says that Russia will live to the tenets of this treaty they've got with Venezuela. And some people are saying this is a World War III fear. What it really seems to amount to is Lavrov and the Russians are talking about sending all kind of armaments, weapons, and aircraft even to Venezuela. And they're claiming that there would be some surprises. Although the partnership hasn't taken effect yet, Lavrov indicated it's getting close. Now, he's the foreign minister of Russia. He's usually a very reserved statesman type individual. So, Leapritter exposed Trump's chilling three-word whisper to Putin. I don't know, there's all kind of innuendo out there. He stated, we supply the country with virtually the entire range of weapons from small arms to aircraft, and the Americans could be in for some surprises, he said. Well, most of what Venezuela's got right now is probably comparable to where Iraq was before we went up against Iraq in Desert Storm. So I don't think that they have, where we would get in trouble is putting boots on the ground. But then again, their militias, they're barely able to feed them. They talk about these large militias. They're barely able to feed their armed forces there in Venezuela. So I don't know really what they're up for. You can expect, we'll probably lose a few airmen. We'll lose a few people in these as this escalates. But I don't think Venezuela can really put up a credible defense. Boots on the ground can turn ugly, though. So we don't know where this is going to go. We don't have tanks ready to roll in like we did in Desert Storm. But we don't have a General Schwarzkopf down there. I don't think. Maybe we do. Uh, but Russia, there's just a lot of stuff about Russia's being prepared to supply them, to support them. And some people claim it's a World War III fear. I think that's a little bit overblown. Russia's already got their hands full. But Russia's just parked this big spy boat right off the shore of the Hawaiian Islands, off Oahu, or how you pronounce that, Oahu, Oahu, or what? I'm not Hawaiian. Anyway, I've never been to Hawaii. So, yeah, they just parked this big spy boat right off, invisible range offshore. They're not hiding it, not by any stretch of the imagination. Just miles off the coast. I mean, you can see it from the shore. They're saying 50 nautical miles. That might be hard to see because I think you got to have about 7 miles to see it, but it's said to be right there off the shore. So things are ratcheting up. And now the secret U.S. memo supposedly links Venezuela to chemical weapons threat. Now, we've always heard this, and I got to agree with this article that this is something that's been thrown out there before to legitimize us moving in a big way with some kind of campaign. They say it causes belly here, and they talk about various countries in here where we've used this kind of excuse before. They didn't mention Syria though, which is interesting in this article. That was our supposed complaint about Assad in Syria, but they named just about every other country other than Syria in this article. But we've seen this play before, and this time they're talking about fentanyl as a potential chemical weapon threat. Well, as we all know, fentanyl is mainly coming up through Mexico, and the source ingredients are coming from China. It's mainly cocaine coming up out of mainly through Colombia and up and somewhat through Venezuela. But, you know, so again, this narco terrorism stuff, it's a cover story. It's a cover story for a bigger geopolitical conflict. This is again, Laroff is now saying that European countries are openly preparing for a major war against Russia. So, the European theater is getting hot. We've seen a lot of drone activity, threats to shoot down each other's assets, including Russian planes. Pardon me, I gotta have a drink of water. I'm getting a little frog in my throat. Mm, mm. Feeling a little bug in my throat. So, I'm not over what I've had entirely. Uh, and now the Russians are saying that, well, London needs war. Britain needs war. They can't afford peace in Ukraine because they're claiming that. Now I don't know. This is RT, and this is probably a propaganda piece, but there might be something to it. Why are the British pushing so hard for war? They really Britain doesn't have much of a military to brag on. They do have some nukes. They do have a couple of nuclear submarines, but their navy is pathetic. Their army is pathetic. But they say here that Ken Starmer says we will not back down and Ukraine wins. Wow. Said that Britain emerged from Brexit a weakened state, and that yeah, the National Health Service is buckling. 900,000 people. I don't know. It just goes on about their malaise in London and Britain right now, and they're claiming that they need something to kind of prop their system up. That's a poor excuse for war, but that's one of the excuses often used to get into one. But then maybe they think, well, America's got our back. Yeah, yeah, yeah. We need to get the heck out of NATO. That's what I've been saying all along. Um, Now, hey, just real quick for gold. We know that Mr. Wonderful here has been making some statements about gold and quite a few others here. What was this? crux of this article here again. Tether is betting billions on gold, and we know a lot of people are still saying that the gold surge is just beginning. Why? Because the U.S. dollar has been under attack. Why is the U.S. dollar so under attack? Forcing dollarization abroad. The real threat is a gold anchored system is emerging across the global south because we weaponized the dollar. All this began when Biden weaponized the dollar in the conflict for Ukraine. And that's when they really started pushing BRICS, the global south, to back away from the dollar. Say, look, the United States used the dollar against you. And, a lot of people were warning the Biden administration not to do that, that this would be the result. And indeed, it is happening. And let me hit the refresh on this. We got just a little reprieve again on gold. It went down a little bit, and silver went down a little bit. But, like I said, you get these little dips on the escalation up. It looks like it's still going to rise. Now, I'm not a forecaster. I'm not an economist. I'm not a financial advisor. But, it's one way to hedge your bets. With the dollar falling, right now, I don't see much in play to turn that around. We're $38 trillion in debt, my friends. Our country is in a serious bad spot right now. So just something to take into account. If you want to get gold or silver or platinum, I highly encourage you to check out Defy the Grid. Simply because defythegrid.com, simply because they got a deal that says if you can find a better price anywhere else, they'll meet it or beat it. And they can do that because they only operate on 3 to 4% margin. And even with that, they'll give you 1% off if you use the discount code Green Gregs. And yeah, you can buy these gold backs there. Down here somewhere, which is like 1,000th of a troy ounce of gold in this case for the one denomination. And these, you can put them in your wallet. And you can barter with them because there's small amounts of gold that makes them fungible. There's a new Arizona gold back. I need to get me some of those. Oh, that one's a half a troy ounce. Well, they've got it down below a troy ounce down and going to 1/2 of a troy ounce even. Nice, sweet. Keep it fungible. Anyway, pardon me, guys. Ukraine's got a new 1,000-kilometer long Neptune missile. They got their Flamingo missiles. So they're striking deep into Russia. They're striking the oil terminals. They're striking the chemical processing plants. They're trying to strike at Russia's economy and Russia's means to finance the war against them. Will they prevail in that? Well, they're losing on the ground at home. So only time will tell. But I think in the war of attrition, Russia's still heavily favored. But now Xi, he's on warpath to target Taiwan as satellite images expose invisible missile attack missiles. Yeah, so the China is coming up with a whole new missile fleet to attack Taiwan with. And furthermore, let's see here. Now, like I said, Japan has figured out, now Japan's got a new prime minister who is, Japan's coming to their senses. They realize that they are at grave risk with the loss of Taiwan. Because if they lose Taiwan, China can close down this Taiwan Strait and the South China Sea for trade. And what happened here? I don't know what happened. Just went off to some ad or something. They can close all that. Oh, it jumped. They can choke Japan off. Japan's existence is at risk here, and Japan is basically coming to the idea they're going to have to fight with Taiwan, and that's really got China up in arms. So China's warned Japan of a crushing defeat, and they're telling Chinese people to shun visits to Japan. Is that because they're on the verge of attacking, or are they just trying to hurt the Japanese economy? I don't know. China on Friday, the day, warned Japan of crushing military defeat if it uses force to intervene over Taiwan. So this is what we're talking about. This is really ratcheting up over there. But it's taken Yeah. Taiwan is even going, excuse me, China's even going after people in Taiwan. They're trying to get tips on some of the influencers in Taiwan who are calling for independence. And so they're apparently they want to send in people somehow covertly to nab these people, to arrest them. So, yeah, talk about freedom of speech. You don't have that in a communist country. And but China held territory. Been talking here about the Philippines has missiles that have the Chinese held artificial barrier islands that they claimed in the South China Seas, which should not be theirs. Some of these bases are now in range of U.S. supplied missiles and Indian supplied missiles. In this case, I think they're talking about. Yeah, they got some Indian made supersonic cruise missiles in Luzon facing the South China Sea for deployment against these Scarborough Shoals facilities that the Chinese have built up out there. So it's the Philippines, it's China, it's Taiwan, it's China, it's Japan, it's China, and us. So, but everything ain't going so swimmingly well for China. They just had their big pride, this new bridge they built that collapsed. This, I don't know how you pronounce Honky, it's not Honky, HONGQI. How will you pronounce that? This is a brand new bridge just months after built, collapsed. It just shows you the corruption in their own system, their own suppliers. They didn't probably put in enough pylons. They probably didn't put in the pylons and things they needed to make this bridge really structurally sound. So all this ballyhoo about Chinese great infrastructure is not so great. There's something called tofu buildings. A lot of the buildings in China are just made out of spit and tissue paper. They look great, but if you poke, but you can poke your finger through the concrete. So, yeah, China is a facade in a lot of ways, except for the military. And let's hope that's a facade too. But now, Iran just seized a tanker in the Gulf of Oman. They've started back in tanker seizures. And according to some sources, they're basically cutting off the Strait of Hormuz. I don't think that's quite happened yet. I think that's a little bit of an overreaction, but it could be. I've only seen that from one source, a YouTuber, and I think he was overreacting to it. But they did seize this tanker. And the Marshall Islands flag tanker Talera was seized by Iranian forces in the Gulf of Oman after it passed through the Strait of Hormuz from AJ Man, however you pronounce that, in the United Arab Emirates heading to Singapore. So it's from the United Arab Emirates heading to Singapore, but they just decided to seize it. This. What did this have to do with the United States or Israel? It's just Iran being Iran. But this may provoke U.S. military action because U.S. military Navy tries to maintain freedom of the seas for navigation for all the countries. We're like the world's policemen, and then that was part of the Bretton Woods drug deal America signed with the world once upon a time. I call it a drug deal, but it's just it was what was understood. Now, this is from an Indian source. This has got India's prejudice, and all these articles have some prejudice to them. A predictable tactic. India calls out Pakistan's delirious leadership over terror claims, says remark to deflect internal power grab, because New Delhi is being blamed on a car bombing that took place inside of Islamabad, and these sides are really gearing up toward a war. I don't know. This didn't. Oh, something to play out here. There have been talks that apparently have failed. Pakistan opens an investigation to the Islamabad terror attack. But basically, there were some talks that have just totally fallen apart over there. So they seem to be marching toward war. And Pakistan claims they can fight Afghanistan and India at the same time. Well, I don't know. But China's got one of their main Belt and Road terminals that runs through Pakistan through Balochistan, which don't want to be part of Pakistan, to a port. So there's a lot of players got their fingers in this. But now, here's something of interest. From Chile to Venezuela, South America shifts to the right, at least southern South America. Uh, there's still, I think Bolivia just made a kind of a shift to the right too. So there's different things happening, but we know Brazil is not in our court. Colombia is not in our court. Venezuela is not in our court. So, and there's a lot of Chinese influence throughout South America right now that Trump wants to stop the foreign influence of China and Iran and Russia into Latin America. And part of doing this is they're looking at reactivating deactivated bases in Panama, Puerto Rico, and Ecuador. The United States is about to reactivate a bunch of military bases in Latin America. So this, we could, I'm thinking about doing a video and just call it the Donroe Doctrine, after the Monroe Doctrine. All right, earthquakes, stuff's shaking. We're almost done with the news portion of this. I'll check the chat when I go through the news. We got a fresh earthquake in the Philippines. Man, they just had a big typhoon, 5.4. The Puerto Ricans look like they're dancing and partying real hard. They got a lot of activity over in that area. Culver, Puerto Rico, always. There's some little earthquakes on Alaska as usual. 2.6, 2.8, Sutton Alpine, way up here. Hughes, Alaska. 2.5. Chinga, Alaska. How you pronounce that? Chinga. And looks like we got one here in around Texas. Dilley, Texas, 3.4. That's a little southeast of where we normally see them there. One Topeka plate. It's got one going off west of it, off the northern California coast. We got one over here in Mammoth Lakes, California. Is that close to the Long Valley caldera? Gosh, I hope not. And then Tonga area, a lot of activity there. Vanuatu and Tula, how you pronounce that, Indonesia. So earthquakes are happening. Mid-Atlantic Ridge has got one on it, 4.9. Now we'll look at space weather. Thankfully, this offending sunspot, which is still pretty big, 4274, is turned away from us. It just kicked out a, I think, an X4, X class 4 solar flare yesterday. But most of that CME will miss us. So the aurora activity is not particularly high right now. And that's probably a good thing for us for the moment. Let's hope that sunspot dies down before it comes back around again. Asteroids, we had one on the 12th that was just outside the geosynchronous asteroids, geosynchronous satellites there. It's about 5 meters diameter, but it was going pretty fast at 15.5 kilometers per second. That was booking. That's interesting. Small but fast. Got to remember, kinetic energy is 1/2 mass times velocity squared. So the speed counts for a lot. Nothing particularly threatening ahead of us that we can see. We always see these red ones, usually in the past. Sometimes the same day. This is the 14th. I'm still on the 14th here for another 50 minutes where I'm at. But that one's already passed us too. And that was almost out to the moon. I think it was only 4 meters in diameter. It would have exploded in the atmosphere. And it wasn't going that fast, 6.6 kilometers per second. That might have been a spin stage of a rocket. I don't know. So going that slow, a lot of times I like to investigate these. It's probably got to orbit real close to Earth's orbit. When you see them going that slow and that small, which also might kind of buttress the idea that maybe it might be we got to zoom way in to see that guy. Okay, it appears to go between Earth and Venus, maybe a little bit out toward Mars. That's its orbit right there. This is Earth's orbit. There's Venus. There's Mars. A bit more inclination than I would have thought, but it still could be it could be a piece of an asteroid, or could be just a spent rocket stage. All righty. I think we've done enough from there. So for the coffee club members that like to watch in the morning, that's the main news portion of this. I'm going to go into the chat room and see what my people are chatting about tonight, see what's happening within the community. Whew, I'm hot. I shouldn't be that hot. It's not that hot in here. It's about 71 degrees, but I feel hot. Whew, that's not good. Not good. So let me go in here and see if the chat is up. There it is. I'll look at it on the computer. And all right, we got Zen Jamming in the house, Colonel Cole's in the house, New Days is in the house. Howdy. Traveler, Val, Chrisum 777. Sending love and joy from South Central Texas. Well, thank you. Arnold Smith, 6. Let's see. David and Deborah Ellis. Hi, Greg and everyone. Whew, yeah, I'm really hot. Gina, how you doing? Jesse? Well, you don't have to have insults. I don't know what that's. Hey, Grant, we got Grant McIntosh in the house. Good to see you, Grant. Grant's an outdoorsman and raises worms. So, and I got worms again, thankfully, finally. Hooey. And Jesse called for everybody to give the thumbs up. I really need that. And a face palm from Grant. Uh-oh. Let's see. We thank you too. We are precious to our Lord. Amen to that. And that's something a lot of people have lost sight of. You know, we're having a lot of attacks in this country, and a lot of people are just doing things that are just off the charts awful, attacking other people. And it's because there's so little respect for human life and human dignity these days. We have lost the concept of that, and that is awful. New Days, definitely a security risk. That's what I've been saying, guys. And she lives in a state where they got one of those transmitters I was talking about. Well, my American friends, you are all in an unknown territory with all this SNAP stuff affecting so many folks, but the corruption is the target for removal. Yeah, they're talking about SNAP. They're talking about having people reapply for it. And maybe some people fear that, but you know, that offers an opportunity to get a lot of illegals off the rolls, and you know, make sure that it's people that are needy. So thanks to the Clintons for selling state secrets. Yeah, no kidding. Blackbait, how you doing? Does that lower the risk of an EMP attack due to not destroying or disable their own infrastructure? They would use their infrastructure first, maybe, and then use the EMP attack. So, well, but they can take us down in so many ways now. It's not funny. I mean, they got belts and suspenders and belts and suspenders and belts and suspenders and belts and suspenders to take us down and cripple us. That's about what it boils down to. Hmm. Belts and suspenders, each in triplicate, maybe times 3 again. It's insane. Venezuela sits on the world's largest strategic oil reserve. Invasion of Venezuela is not about narco terrorism. No, it's not about narco terrorism. I think it's more than just oil. Now, that oil is definitely coveted by China. No, make no bones about it. They definitely covet that. They look at Venezuela as a fellow communist country with a lot of oil, and that would be a potential resource to them too. But it's got a whole lot to do with the geopolitical, strategic chessboard of what's happening today in the world. Spheres of influence, you might say. Marsh Rabbits. I don't recall seeing you for a while. I watched Manchurian Candidate with Frank Sinatra last night. That technology is 70 years old now. Martial law may be declared. That's right, New Days. I mean, I got to say it. It's not just a beard, it's a lifestyle. How about this? What about it? Hey, Loriato, my old hometown's in the house. Salute to you. She's a teacher back in the Huntsville area. Hatred is one of the threads that weaves our history, unfortunately. Yes, very unfortunate. If we don't find a way out of that, we're not going to make it. We're just not going to make it. We got to break that cycle somehow. And we don't have a lot of time to do that. I must warn you. The world has enough to meet everyone's need, but it doesn't have enough to supply all the greed. Oh, that's a good one. Quote by Gandhi. The world has enough to meet everyone's needs, but doesn't have enough to supply all the greed. Wow. Thank you, New Days, for that quote. Very good quote. Too true. And we can meet everybody's needs. Absolutely. Everybody can live in very comfortable in prosperity. If communities pitched in together and built things like this universal habitat concept I got, everybody could have a home to produce their own food and everything they needed, basically. The USA is really messed up right now, and I think it's not over yet. Wait till January. Mm. Yeah, I'm afraid that we've got some more challenges to come, Arnold. If you ever watched prison abroad documentaries, you'll see that their prisons were bursting. Oh, yeah. And you would not want to be in a foreign prison, especially in South America. Ooh, no, any foreign prison, but those are awful. Greg, don't forget Obama, Biden, Hillary supplied the mixed cartels with weapons. Oh, yes. What was that little operation they had? They had a name. Well, there was a word for it. There was a name for that operation. They sure did, and they tried to then blame it on our freedoms. They wanted to be able to turn it around against us to take our weapons away here. Yeah. What was the name of that operation? Fast and Furious, I believe. Fast and Furious. Uh, Somebody can correct me in the chat if I'm wrong, but I believe that was what it was called. So perhaps that's why Russia has offered help. Hmm. Obama's, yeah, there it is. Fast and Furious was devastating to the fix. Yes, yes. And the Mexican cartels, they're better armed than the military in Mexico. Better armed than the military. Yeah, I'm on early tonight. I try to come on early every night. I just usually can't pull it all together fast enough. I really try to come on earlier every night. It takes me a while, but last night I couldn't even do it. Just couldn't do it. I'm not that well. I'm not well, guys. Don't forget the weapons that was supposed to go to Ukraine is showing up. The cartels, some of them, yeah. Oh, Ukrainian companies are selling components that's being used in Iranian drones. These Iranian drones are then sold to Russia and used against Ukraine. Can you believe it? Yeah, I saw an article on that. I didn't pull that article up. But the corruption is just off the charts. Off the charts. Just off the charts. And yeah, we throw money over there. Clock is ticking in the USA, says Colonel Cole. Get a Glock. There you go. John Cole, no more for sale after 30 November. Wow, that clock is about ticked. Can you find them even? Can you even find them? I started taking zinc and water. It seems to make my immune system strong. Well, zinc does help keep you from catching a lot of bugs. Uh, so I won't take much to take Europe. Europe has pretty much destroyed itself from within with its migratory measures. Deep function 100,000 minus one, absolutely. Uh, at least I'm not pregnant. Oh my God. Oh Lord, Arnold, you're funny. Oh my God, I'd be in world trouble if I was, especially at my age. Wow. And me being a dude on top of it. Yikes. There is no England anymore. That's a pretty sad indictment, but that's pretty much it. There's another channel on YouTube called Tulsi TV. Uh, he's an Iranian, and he's covering how far England's fallen to Islamicists. and it's just amazing. That's one of his top themes. And he had some guys going out reporting on some protests, and his guys got arrested. They were just trying to record and report what was going on because they don't want the news getting out over there. There's no freedom of speech in England. Zinc helped me. Very fast results. Take the mineral. I'm taking it in some tablets. Vitamin C and zinc. Yep. So the King Charles character is pointless. Yes, absolutely. King and this whole king mess is stupid anyway. And why in the world did the United States pay so much homage to British royalty? I think it started with that brand called the National Enquirer. They used to talk about the royalty in England all the time. They popularized them back in the 70s. That was stupid. We fought a whole war to get away from those people. We shouldn't pay them any homage whatsoever. No royalty. Ah, don't have to worry about that. The only thing I have to afford is the battlefield pickup. I wonder if Biden has any gold. Probably a good bit. Greg, I've been keeping my greenhouse warm for 2 years. The wood stove I made out for cinder blocks and fire brick. Hey, that's a good idea. You know, a little rocket stove maybe. Uh, so it helps you get over the cold faster. I've been taking zinc. I have been. Keep moringa, trees, citrus, and neem oil. That sounds good. Tomatoes, cayenne, Thai peppers. Yep, that all sounds good. Greg, brother, it could be worse if you went to the doctor and he told you that you have to have a slight touch of, oh my God, Lordy, 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 Lordy. I didn't want to repeat that. I made a cat house around the exit pipe for two little kittens asleep under it. Nice and all. There you go. Just paint the fire brick black on the sun side. There you go. God bless our Navy. Well, we need a lot of God blessings in this country. Point taken. You're right. Let's see. Whoops. I skipped a bunch there. Yeah, I remember years ago when I began my journey out in life, I was painting houses and doing construction. Very good, honest thing to do. The big thing is cedar closets. Yes, cedar closets. Fast and Furious. Oliver North Contra arms sales in exchange for drugs. There's all kind of mess going on. Poindexter and Oliver. Yeah, North. I was always happy to see your cedar claws. That because I didn't have to paint. There you go. Now you don't want to paint. Hey, Space Girl, how you doing? Oh, that's truly it. Yeah. See, where's G. Gordon Liddy when you need him? There you go. Well, he was a character. He was a character and a half. Sad, much of my family comes from England and Ireland, parts of Scotland and France. Yeah, you know, I keep seeing on YouTube all these historical accounts of all these major battles where Europeans defended their integrity against the Ottoman Empire and various invasions where they were vastly outnumbered and they fought gallantly. All those warriors laying in their graves must be a spinning right now. I'm going, holy smoke, what do we fight for? You know, there was a video of a World War II soldier in Britain saying, you know, it wasn't worth it. Wasn't worth it because we just gave it all up. You know, all the sacrifice that so many people made, and look what's happened. Europe just turned over and gave it all up. Hey, Jeremiah, how you doing? Hadn't seen you in a while. Matt, I like some of the recipe I like from the Walton. So there you go. Make sure you're constantly wiping surfaces with antiseptic wipes and hand sanitizer. I don't use hand sanitizer, it's got chemicals in it. I use alcohol. That's the main ingredient in hand sanitizers anyway, but without all the other chemicals. Like I just had to throw some humor in. Okay, that's fair enough. So Gordon Liddy on Star Trek. Really? Was he on Star Trek? Oh my gosh. That's funny. That's funny. Really? Is that true? Was G. Gordon Liddy on Star Trek? He was a character and a half. He really was. You know, he was scared of two things: rats and thunder, or lightning. So he strapped himself to a tree in a lightning storm to overcome his fear when he was a kid of lightning. And he overcome his fear of rats. He killed one and cooked it and ate it. He was a character. Like that World War II veteran, British News. That's probably who I'm talking about. It says, "Hey, it wasn't worth it. We went through all this sacrifice. We fought gallantly, and what come of it? What come of it? You know, these people are sad. They're sad. And can you blame them? Can you blame them? I gotta have a lot of water. I had a little bit of tachycardia this morning. I don't know if I was just dehydrated or because I wasn't eating enough tree nuts lately to keep my magnesium up. My granddad went to his grave mad in 2024. He fought in beaches Normandy all the way to Paris, and from there to Berlin. He went to his grave mad. Wow. Yeah, it's just, there's just a litany of thousands of years of people defending. And then get a bunch of woke people in charge and they just turn it all over, give it all up. Why? Because they want to tear down the West. They want to tear down nations. They want to create a global order. But I think it's got worse than what they had in mind, too. The House of Klaus and that kind of thinking. And who's running that now? Larry Fink from BlackRock. And Larry Fink, when consumers in this country turned against Bud Light and some of these other products that he was promoting a certain agenda for, he kind of started singing another song. But really and truly, do you think he's changed? If he had, why is he running the World Economic Forum now? He was 99. Wow. 82nd like. Good for alive. Great to see you. Looking like they're fulfilling biblical prophecy narrative and Albert Pike wishes at the same time. Yeah. They, well, guys, you got to take a hard look at Trump. He put Pike's statue back up. Why did he do that? He had a big steak dinner and he had the Billy Goat Gates right there. I don't know. I tell you, don't put your trust in no man. No man. Something don't smell right. Something don't smell right at all. I don't know, my friends. I mean, I'd rather have him than Kamala any day. But still, don't, keep your eyes open. A lot of people are trying to influence him. And I don't know, guys. It's not pretty. Not pretty. So, how long we've been going now? How long we've been on the air here? 62 minutes. Let me check because sometimes there's somebody in watching that's not chatting, and sometimes I get a donation, so I want to make sure. Oh yeah, I got a donation from Colorado Jan's not with us tonight, is she? She sent me a check in the mail. So salute to Colorado Jan. Spunky Sugar Greg, you've watched Dark. Have you watched Dark Journalist and John Warner, the fourth UFO File Wars? No, I haven't seen that. I'm not seen that. Uh, hey, I'm trying to get my Galactic Greg's channel fully monetized for ads. I can receive super chats over there. But so far, all I only got was a $4 super chat, but it's not monetized for ads yet. I got to get more views. And the last couple of videos I put out really didn't get a lot of views. So go over and just let some of those videos play. Watch some of those videos. Sure. Trying to get that channel remonetized. And I was kind of on a roll. I was getting them for a while. I was getting 100 view hours per video. Now it's more like 30. So, yeah, I don't know what's happening there, but Torrento, the snake he talked about. I don't know what we're talking about, holy moly. So let's see. That's another email. Let's change over to Green Graves. Was Judy Dowell in the house? She said some. She sent me some email about sign up to win a Zanger guitar. I'll have to look into that. But I don't have any. Nobody's donated through my website, so nothing there tonight. I'd just like to check in case there's some credit to be given. I like to give credit where it's due. Ah, Melvin Belly. I don't know who Melvin Belly is. BlackRock is having financial issues to apply for a chapter protection. Wow. They own so much assets, it's not funny. We were kind of counting on them to buy out the Chinese company that owned the ports. They're running the ports on each side of the Panama Canal, but they didn't follow through with the deal. And it's bad, pretty sad when you got to rely on a company like BlackRock to save the country. Well, they failed. They didn't. Maybe they never intended to. Bedtime for you. Yeah, I think it's bedtime for me too. So thanking you, Days, for being in the house. Yeah, I like that Gandhi quote. That was a real good one. Maybe Trump joined the Confederate Army. All right, let's whistle Dixie a time or two, right? Has anyone seen the new WF food pyramid? They're pushing all bread and sugar. Hey, JFK Jr. is not RFK Jr. Excuse me, is talking about a new food pyramid. It's all whole foods. Now we're talking. That's what we need. Whole foods. So thanking you, Days. Thank you so much for being here. Appreciate you very much. Have a good night. Sleep, sweet dreams. And we're about to go. We are about to go. We got the egg guests though. All righty, guys. How many eggs we get today? Here they are. How many eggs are harvested today? How many eggs did I harvest today? First guest gets it. First one I see in the chat. Thank you, Days. Yeah, she's got a day job now. She has to get up early. And I need to call it a night early too. Because I'm running out of horsepower here. I just don't have the energy. Spunky says 5. Keep going. 33. Wow, Matt. That'd be awesome. No, not 33. 4. Arnold Schmidt got it. Bingo. Arnold Schmidt guessed it first. Space Girl agrees, but Arnold got it first. First one to give it. It is indeed 4 eggs. I only got 1 egg yesterday, and that's the lowest number I've had in a long time. And normally the low number is 2. I had 1 egg yesterday, but day 4. Hey, Lori, good to see you in the house. I got 12 hens, but this isn't a primary laying season. Good to see somebody from back home, Lori and Colonel Cole. Southern Grits. All right. Hey, why don't everybody tell us where you're from? Speaking of seeing a couple faces from back home, Lori came and visited me at the farmer's market. And when I used to sell in the Madison City Farmers Market. So, of course, Colonel Cole, he'd pop in all the time at the farmers market and see me. All righty, folks. Happy for you. There you go. Everybody tell us where you're from tonight, because we're on a little earlier than normal, so we got a little bit different crowd. Holy moly's in Indiana. Colorado, Spunky Sugar. All right. Leftover crab shells and shrimp shells. Still waiting for all my expenses paid. Trip to lost wages. Yeah, you'll lose your wages there. Northern Minnesota. Oh, we got Wales in the house. Wow. Fantastic. New Zealand's in the house. Hey, Mitch. Southern California. Territory of North Dakota. Still a territory, huh? In the lower 48, Arizona was the last territory. Let's see. Jax, Florida. All right. Southern Grits. That's a good place. Vancouver, British Columbia. Hey, Clayton. Hey, I love the Fraser River Canyon. That's beautiful up above you there. Dallas, Texas. 8th generation Floridian. Wow, Matt. Missouri, Ellis, Missouri. David and Deborah Ellis. I know where Jesse's from. He's my neighbor now. He's just up in the White Mountains, Western Alberta. All right, Arnold. 3 year, 3 months, and two moves, 12 miles from Georgia Guidestones. Hey, I shipped worms one time, 1 mile from the Georgia Guidestones. I figured they were tunneling underneath there to try to tip them over. Excuse me. The tourist villa. Hello. There you go. Hey, Mike. Mitch, are you from down under? Where in Indiana? If you get some seafood, throw the chickens your shells. There you go. Yep, that's a good idea. Saxon, Calgary, Alberta. Northeast Arizona. Amen, Jesse. I know where you're at, roughly. Clayton. All right, folks. Well, we've had a good night tonight, I guess. I just wanted to bring to you guys' attention the state of the world, where we're at, the things coming at us, what we face. I live by Greenfield, Indiana, in Willow Branch. Okay. Old as dirt. I get to see old as dirt. Yeah, Saxon. Well, we're about to call it a night here. So I want to thank everybody for watching. Thank you, mods. Please share my videos. Share them far and wide. And go in after I post a video, make some comments below after I post it, and maybe comment to somebody else's comment. Holy moly, I'm in Northeast Indiana near Fort Wayne. I like the movie Beneath the Planet of the Apes because since Carlton Heston said he was, or maybe it was Planet of the Apes, they figured out he was from Fort Wayne, so they knew he was from military. I always thought that was funny. That was just a bit of the humor that they slid into that movie, right? Indiana has a ton of data centers. That's true. They're all over the place now. Hope you and Rex do another show soon. That would be a great idea, Matt. Well, we'll probably do it. Make you a hot toddy. I can't do anything with alcohol in it. I can't handle it. It sends my ticker to the racetrack. So maybe a hot tea, hot coffee, or hot chocolate, but that's about all I can handle. uh, anyway, so all righty. I appreciate all you guys. I really do. Hermit Kingdom down under, brother. There you go. Mitch McGrill. Ah, thanks for the show. Okay. Mullen. Man, they get me some mullen. No kidding. That I need to do. Need to get some mullen. All righty, folks. Once again, thank you, mods. Thank you, everyone, for watching. And to one and all, a good night, good day, wherever you are. Ho, ho, ho. Greg out.